Welcome, everyone. I'm Dr. Anita Sanchez. Nawa, Aztec, and Toltec are my tribes. And I'm just delighted today to welcome actually a dear friend. You know, some of those folks that you may not have known that long, but you've known them forever. So our ancestors must have known each other. And that's Helene Lindquist. She's Sami, Sweden. Helene Lindmark is a wisdom keeper, a grandmother from the Sapmi people. She walks with her knowledge as a voice for Mother Earth, her people, and the ancestral wisdom that is stored in her indigenous people's lands. She is mentoring the next generation of Sapmi community members, convening and speaking on their behalf all over the world with a unique perspective, such beautiful perspective based on her ancestral knowledge. She wants and does bridge the gap between traditional indigenous knowledge and the contemporary understanding of sustainable practices. Her role as a global bridge builder for a sustainable future highlights the significance of reciprocity with nature and promoting innovative solutions for climate adaptation and social resilience. There's so much to say about you. But I'm going to let you tell us a little bit more about you and your background. But I do want to add just that her origin is wisdom and spiritual shamanic healing, and it comes from both her mother and her father. She has a background in the social sector with extensive experience in psychiatric trauma care, with investigation and treatment. And with that, my dear grandmother, sister, elder, Helen, I welcome you to this podcast.
Thank you, Anita. Yes, I am Helene Lindmark, and I came from a very, very small village outside Gällivare, a village that today, unfortunately, been erased because of the mining, and it happened 2022. I grew up very close to my family. I grew up with a beautiful grandmother and grandfather. That the grandmother was the soul of the village, and she really gave me the gift of having an open heart to humanity, to have an understanding that everyone doesn't maybe know, everyone doesn't maybe understand. So, and my grandfather, he died when I was 3 years old, and it wasn't until I was in a adult year that I understood that he gifted me through his hand, that I was the one who carried the gift. And that was very overwhelming. How do you take the call? How do you dedicate yourself to something that big with such much responsibility? So it was a journey. The thing I did was that I wanted to discover my lineage. Where do I come from? I have a mother and I have a father, of course. They have also 2 lineage. And it shows that my heritage goes through Sweden, Finland, and Russia. So as I am holding the Sami lineage, I also holding the lineage of the Kwan people and the lineage of the people that are up in the north. You can call them, talking the Meänkieli, we call them Tornedalingar. So it's a monocultural landscape. And how can it be like that? We are nomadic people. We have moved. And that is the stories my father always tell me about the movement, when there were no roads, when he was with my grandfather and everything, they had to walk or go by a bicycle there, or even not that, just walk miles of the miles, because my grandfather was the one who built the roads up there. So it was really, but I did that because I felt I needed to come home to feel, who am I to carry this call, and what is it doing with me, and what do I want to bring into the world?
I think all those questions are really great.
Yeah. And one thing was that always to never judge, never value, to have an understanding that people who never have connection with nature maybe don't know. So what is my responsibility there? Is to share for them, is to show them and open that source within them, because we all have it. We have it through our primordial senses. Because in the beginning, I see life like this. We are indigenous people. We come from communities, we come from lineage. But indigenous wisdom is something that is deeply stored in our original structures in every human being. And that is, I think, is the beauty. That's why I focus myself on being a bridge, because I have grandchildren who's going to walk on this earth, who's going to grow up and are born in this present time with this frequency, with this environment, and to help that, to create that understanding.
It's essential.
And yeah, but also I have a degree and I worked in psychiatry, healthcare, and I really lived my life outside my world until 37 when I burned out. When I was 37, a new time started. And suddenly I realized that the responsibility to carry this call for my family, but for the common generation, because a legacy is stored in our water, is stored in our blood, is stored in our bones. It's the energy that is flowing. It's the energy that holding the collective traumas that are so profound. It's so activated, I would say, today. How
So
we
tell
have,
us, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I was just
but
saying, continue to tell us more about that energy that goes through us all, because I know people are hurting at this time. I hear that from clients. I hear that in the communities that I'm a part of. And so what you're talking about, it flows like water, but doesn't mean you have to stay with it. You have to carry it all the time. So can you tell us a little bit about that being a bridge and that being the working in terms of, it sounds like it's psychiatry you kind of left, but yet that's wisdom that's you probably weave into your indigenous knowing and wisdom. Maybe not.
I see life like this. I am being 55 years this year, but I see life as a universal library. Everything I have experienced have learned me something. Every education, every meeting, there was a young man who asked me when I was at COP27 in Egypt. He said, "Grandmother Helen, have you ever failed?" And I hugged him and I said, "I have failed 1,000 times. But that doesn't mean that I am a failure. It's all the teachings I take with me, because the road is bumpy. We have to try." And that is something coming from my father. He said, and that's coming from, but because he wasn't allowed to try. Because in my home, there was also religion. There was the religion of the Christianity and Laestadianism. So even if they were healers, and people come to our home and they get well, no one talked about it. That was kind of another role that was silent, and no one said anything about it. So he said, when I was very young, he said, "I'm going to let you free and I'm going to let you try, because that is how you learn." And if to come back to the collective that is very activated, is that through generational, there are wounds. There are frequency of pain, there are frequency of confusion, conflicts. And the thing is that now we are ending a new cycle. We are in a very, very deep transition. So the collective is very activated. So what voice are we using when we are speaking? Are we using the collective voice, or are we using the voice that is trusted in with us self, because we are home and we can speak from the heart? Of course, sometimes we speak from the logical mind, sometimes from the ego. It depends. But the collective is such a suffering, it's such a pain. And do we need to carry it? No, because it just wants to come in peace. It just wants to be healed. And to allow that, to show the collective that I am strong enough to stand my ground. As long the collective is not trusting us, as long as we are running, the collective will never trust us. So we have to stay our ground and allow the collective to go in peace and be healed, and to show them that from the present time where we are living now, we will take the highest responsibility with reciprocity for nature and the planet and the climate. So it is more that weaving that I feel is very extremely important. And we all have this, it's in our water, it's in our DNA, it's in our cell memories. That's why we can be prigged of different things or react. And we can think, why is this happening to me?
Yes.
Or why did I get sick, for example?
Yeah. Well, what I hear you saying is so important to everyone, because there is opening up, as you say, it's a good thing in one way. It has to come open, the pain, the trauma, in order for us to heal. And so we have to be about our own healing. So then when we're the collective, we can hold that. And everyone has the ability to do that. And it takes practice, and it takes a knowing and belief that about this energy and the connection that we're all a part of. So I would love for you to tell us more, because I know that there are people listening. Many people are wondering about who they are and what they are. And your path about knowing that from the beginning, you may have ideas for people. And I know many Europeans don't, they know to a certain degree, and then they don't after that. But what's your responsibility? How do you find out what you are and who you are? How do you do that?
I say often that I am a wisdom mother, and my role in this world is to bring humanity home to the heart, and to learn to listen within ourselves. Listen to the silence, listen to the water, listen to the pain, listen to the movement inside of us, and knowledge, and just being. To give yourself 5 minutes every day and just stay, stop, and just be. And how does that feel? Because it's a lot of things we don't know, and that is okay. To go on a healing journey, we start with a blank paper to learn to know our primordial senses. How is the senses working? The taste, the smell, the eyes, the hearing, what is really triggering, what is really activating, what is really embracing, what is really feeling so good. But to make that journey, to allow yourself to go to the inner space and allow yourself to just be in that silent space. And the most beautiful to do that also is to, people say, how can I integrate with nature? How can I be with nature? Nature doesn't have any expectations of you.
Yeah.
Nature
No,
just
just
loves you, and it wants to be with you. And the fire also loves you, wants to be with you. It has no expectation. One thing that I had in a ceremony was, I was holding a big ceremony, and there were not many people who were not used to having a ceremony. Many people from corporate world. And then I was just saying kindly to one of the person, because he was feeding the fire. And I said, do you feel that the fire is hungry? And he looked at me and I said, even if the flames go down, even if the energy go down, the fire is a living being. So it's also following the rhythm of life. And I said, just observe it, be with it. And I think that people are so afraid of doing the wrong things.
Yeah.
And when we have not, acknowledged ourselves or what is really right and wrong, I mean, we have our universal library. So how I speak today is coming from my heart. And it's really my experience. It's my life. It's how I work. It's what I'm doing and what I'm bringing to the world. And I think everyone has a unique gift to bring to the world. And my role has been, that's mostly of the people who come for quest or retreats or teachings, it's about coming home. How can I find the trust? How can I find the integrity in myself, intention and the intuition and instinct? Look at the animal. Look at the wolf mother. She's beautiful, and she has, she has the instinct. She has the integrity. She trusts her intuition. She respects. She loves. She listening. She hearing, and she correcting. But she never keep. She shake it loose, because it's kind of the movement of the animal cycle. And I think that's a beautiful metaphor to see, really, to observe the environment you are in, and be gentle to yourself. When you're starting this journey, be gentle. Don't push yourself to 3 hours meditation, for example. If you've never been still, maybe to sit totally still is not your way of finding silence. Maybe that is to take a walk or sit by the water and look out. Is to find your uniqueness. What do you need? What are you longing for? And how often are we asking ourselves that?
It's great questions. And I love the wisdom that you're sharing, the access to this. I want everyone to hear. It's all of us have it, because we all have that inside of us, but we also have nature, which we are part of, to be able to reinforce that. So when the craziness is happening, we don't have to join into that. We can see it. It's not by denying it, but hold what is true that we're getting from the moon. I wake up with the sun every day, from the sun, from all these trees and nature. And even if you live in the middle of a city with a lot of cement, get outside and get by a tree at a park or whatever. But it is important that this separation from nature has caused so much problems. And what I hear you saying, not only here, but I've in the past in your ceremonies, they are coming from your heart. It's your heart, but it feels so connected to the heart of everything, the heart of nature.
Yeah, and also what you're saying is so important, Anita, because that to make it simple and to be gentle and to be humble to yourself. It's not a company or presentations you're going to do. It is a moment with yourself, to honoring yourself, to acknowledge yourself. And it can be by lighting a fire. It can be by lighting a candle. It can be by going to the water. Just close your eyes for 5 minutes and hearing the waves or the streams. It's really, or take off your shoes, go barefoot, feel her ground, or just go and hug a tree and just feel it, just relax to the tree. You don't have to do anything. It is to embrace it. And often I say that the climate is a very, very, very big question today. It's a very big topic. I don't see it as an issue. I see it as ourselves, but our regulator, or our emotional system. So as we see it stormy outside, I often think, how is the world? Is it stormy around humanity? Is there more longing to peace, or earthquakes, or flood and drought, or tsunami, whatever? Because that is her voice. That is how she's talking to us. She's talking with the climate to us, and the climate. We are all a reflection of that. We are all a reflection of the nature, the climate, the planet. It's living inside of us. So sometimes I say to people, if you were the earth, could you map it inside of yourself? how would that map, can you draw it? How would that map look like? In color and see.
That's a
Because I
wonderful
think,
question.
yeah, and I think, if it's so important to for the common generation of what we're doing, to build it on a joyful inspiration, so they, get curious, because then we bring life.
Yeah.
And that is so, life is so sacred, and it's so beautiful, and it's so changeable. It's so amazing.
I love that. To be curious. I know growing up with my elders and then learning later from some of the elders who very much are still a part of my life, even though they passed to the other side, they're very much present. And that we all have this ability, and that no one can take away, but our fear of our own power, which is nature, a fear of that, and a fear of death. I remember over and over again, some of my elders telling me, be quiet and listen. And it's like, oh my gosh, when you think we are part of all this, as you're sharing, when you map that out inside of who you are, then you realize not that you won't ever have suffering or what people call failing, but it's all learning, and it's all part of being part of this abundance. And it's sufficient. We have enough for everyone, because nature doesn't say, oh, the sun is only going to light this, you're not getting any tomorrow, or the moon, or whatever it is, water is flowing. So it's, with what we are doing, how we are being is a reflection of what we're doing. And I think you're a perfect example of that. One other thing I want to say before you move on. I knew for you, just move it to where you want to talk about. But I have to say, because it's so beautiful. For the first time I went to Northern Europe, I went to Norway around the Arctic Circle with two Sami friends of mine, and they hosted back in 2022. And I actually took no photos, because being there was no way I could separate anything. It was like, no, I need a movie camera. And that's not even it. It just was so connected, that energy there. And for the first time ever, I saw, outside of a zoo or someplace like that, a reindeer. Reindeers were coming and circling when we did ceremony. And I just thought, oh my gosh, every place, every person is unique and yet so connected. So I just had to share that beauty, because I can see the picture behind you, and I just have a little sense of that one place in Norway, of the vastness, and you could feel the ancestors talking to you. And so those of you who not know, like she said, be quiet. And also at night, before you go to sleep, ask the ancestors, when your head is out of the way, ask them to come, and they do. And they do.
I have many people who come to me and say, I didn't know my grandmother. I never met her. I never met my grandfather. So how can I have connection? And I say to them that they are in the lakes underneath the earth. They are there for you. In our culture, everything is an ongoing circle. So every morning we wake to a new day. Every evening we leave, and we come back for a new day, a new moment the next day. And we live also by the 8 seasons. So the 8 seasons, why is it 8 seasons?
Mm-hmm.
Because every season in between is very important for preparation for the next season, because of the nomadic and hard life, to be prepared. And then we can see we have 6 weeks of totally dark, and we have 6 weeks of totally light. But I really love the profound time in November, December, when the darkness is there. It's kind of going in your cocoon, and you go in for reflection, integration, you calm yourself, you weave, you really map how was the year, what will come, you listening. And then also, when the snow is coming, it's just so bright and light, even if it's dark. And then you have the stars, and then you have the northern light. And I remember my grandmother, she always said, like, be quiet, because do you hear them speaking in the light when they are moving? Spirits.
Yeah.
And it's so beautiful. And I say to these people who comes with this question, grandmothers and grandfathers, take a picture of them, sit with it, just close your eyes, hold the picture to your heart, and just breathe and feel the energy and the love from them.
Mm.
Because it's a longing. So I recently did an article of traditional healing with a quant physic woman, and we write about the Sami healing, traditional healing, where we are using the simpleness in it, by where the nature are together with ourselves the tool, and also how can you measure that? Because how can you put a scale, but it's not measurable, because it is a knowing beyond the knowing, and it's not us. We are the instrument. We are the tools. So the question of come up in this article, how to become a healer. She asked me, and I said, the first thing is to come home to yourself, to the trust inside of yourself, and then you can fill your toolbox with all the teachings you want, that you feel inspired to and you feel curious. It's kind of the gift you have. But first, see yourself in the beauty you are, in the uniqueness you are. And that the knowing, when I say the knowing beyond the knowing, is that sometimes we just know things and we think, where does that come from? And that is wisdom.
Yeah, that is wisdom. Just invite everybody, just take that in. I know that when you say coming home, that I can feel that. And I imagine the viewers all listening can hear that. Just listen with the softest part of your ears and expand your heart and just bring that in, that you're coming home. And when you're doing that, then it's all possible, because you're not spinning just in your head. And I don't mean to say get rid of your mind. We need our mind to be alive, our brain. However, we're leading with that. And it's not to lead, it's to be informed. If it's going to lead, it's got to be informed by the heart, by the unknown, the unseen, that intuition, the spirit. And so when you say that, I just wanted to echo part of that, because that's wisdom. It's
Yes.
each of us has it inside.
Yeah. And also the wisdom is also the appearance of our being. Sometimes we can sit in a room and we are sitting and all the people feel so comfortable, because it's the appearance of the energy, because we are in tuned in ourselves. We are home in ourselves. And then we are vibrating in another frequency. No judgment, no value, no defense system. We are just transparent, peacefully sitting there with an open heart to meet each other where we are in life. And often people ask me when I do retreat, what can I expect? And I always say, expect the unexpected.
Yes.
Because I don't know. And that is kind of, it's your time. And I will guide you through your time. I am the instrument. And I think that is something that is important, because also to not 2020, I have to think, 2021, I had a vision. I was in COVID, and the mother came to me, the Mother Earth, and she said, why are you running, Heaven? You're not taking care of yourself. You cannot be there for me. You're a child of me, but you cannot be there for me if you're not caring for yourself. Self-love and self-care. And then she said, I see you so many running and you are falling. because it is not to be forcing or running. It's about standing and holding and being good enough in the present time where we are, because we are all needy. But often, as humanity, especially if we are in the modern world, we are everywhere and nowhere, and then people can say, "Why don't you stop?" But if you never have stopped, how can you know how to stop?
Yeah.
How can you know how to rest? And that is, I think that's why it's so important today. The mind is extremely important, but to bring that, to integrate the mind with the body.
Yes. Yes. Your body doesn't lie. And as you're talking about, what came to me is part of the unlearning that needs to happen is this human supremacy, and that we're in control and know everything. And we're not. We're part of the whole hoop of life.
Yeah.
And so part of the joy and is trust in the great mysteries. So I just want to say, some of the people for the last 10 years, a voice came to me, a vision, and said, your work now is to trust the great mystery. And that's been about 10 years now. And every time I stop, and it still trusts the great mystery. So I imagine there's a lot where I'm still hooked into that. And that's a good thing. See, I can laugh and you can laugh about that, because that's part of our unique journey, whatever that is. But when you do begin to really trust the unknown, trust the great mystery, even when you have hardship, that is in your benefit, and that you will come even more whole. It pulls you. It's like a friend of mine, Michael Beckwith, always says, pain pushes till vision pulls. And when you're clear about where you stand, then that can pull you, that knowing, that vision can pull you regardless of the pain. And yes, we want to stop the pain, but it allows us to shift it, to change it in a way that is so called by Mother Earth at this time.
Yeah. I can say I'm a living example, because I also walking with the Kiva ceremony that
Yes.
I have been, and now I am preparing for a big change in that Kiva ceremony for 2025, where we'll do a pilgrimage. We are just under building it, but also there will be new Kivas in different part of the continents. But I broke the ankle bone during the Kiva this year.
Yeah.
And I looked at the video that was recorded with me, just a few seconds. And I'm so shining. I'm so happy. I am with one of my new students, and we are talking about the importance of taking, coming home, and from one second to another, I broke the leg, and I ended up in a wheelchair, and I ended up in a convalescent time for 6 months. And that has really been also to looking into where do you need to be? Where do you put your voice, for example? And kind of if we are feeling empty inside and we don't know, then many people think that they are punished themselves because they don't know the next step. But it's not about that. I would like to say to these people, just stop for a second and give gratitude to yourself. Be humble to yourself, embrace yourself, and just breathe and feel into, how am I feeling? How is my body vibrating? And I think that has been the deepest, biggest journey during these 6 months. And also to take help, to take support. And not coming from a generational where they were learned to ask for help. We were strong. It's a hardness of energy up in the north. You used to sustain yourself. You survive. And you don't talk. The silent has its own language. So are there problems? Do not talk really about it. Are there something happening? Okay, it happened, but no one is talking about it. So a lot of that is the collective since generational back. But to be able to surrender to asking for help, that was something so hard for me, so profound, but also learned me the importance of the self-care for myself. Yeah. And that to have to reach out the hand, and there are no wrong questions. Yes, to be curious, to explore, and also to be kind to yourself that I am really outside or living in the outside world, but how can I come into the inside world to give you that gift that it's not that you have done wrong your whole life. It's that just the library you have. But you can get new books for the library.
I love that asking. I just love every time both of us smiling and stuff, but your smile. Asking for help. I work some of the time in business and corporate, and I know there's different versions for all of us, but I hear a consistent one with men that, again, if you only listen to out there, the main is like, well, you're not supposed to ask for help. You're supposed to do it. And then women also getting that. And wait a minute. We do nothing alone. And you'll like this, Helen. I came up with a couple of years ago. I said, it was during COVID. I said, okay, hold your breath. Don't worry, I won't let you turn blue, but just hold your breath. And people looked really strange. And so these leaders would hold their breath, and then they finally couldn't. And I'd go, okay. And I said, so what happened? And as we deconstructed it, they go, oh my gosh, I do nothing alone. At first, I thought it's just me because it's my own system that will make me. But when we keep walking back, wait a minute, the plant relatives are helping us because they're taking our carbon and giving us oxygen. Everything that we do is part of a whole relationship with everything. And that separation is what is crazy making. And so when you keep saying, come home, the quiet, all the different things that you map it out, you walk, you don't have to sit and meditate for 40 minutes. I was one of those. I just walked and listened and then stopped and then listened to more and walked. And what I realized is that, oh my gosh, all of these beings, not only the two-legged who I love so much, but all these beings are here for me. And even in the deepest, darkest times, which I know you've had some, and I've definitely had some with abuse and the murder of my father that was race-related. And even with that, when I thought, oh, Helen's talking about things, Grandmother Helen, but how can you forgive some of these things? How can you forgive some of the things that seem unforgivable? And what I understand when you go home and when you realize how much help you have is that at this point, I think nothing is unforgivable. Even what we're doing to Mother Earth, we just have to change it because we are part of Mother Earth. But everything is forgivable.
Yeah, and I'm glad you're talking about this because also when I'm bringing home people, the biggest shame is to acknowledge that your parents did wrong with you.
Yes.
To start to open the box of the family box of secrets, of knowing. And I remember I had a man coming many years, and he comes from a very, very high family. So he had it all. And then he said, why don't I have myself?
Mm.
And then we did a mapping inside of him. And then I said, I can see that it wasn't so easy when you grow up because you were mediating between your parents because there were no communication.
Mm.
There were no balance between the frequency. And then I said to him, if I can look in both lineage, what I feel is that they didn't get these teachings, how to communicate emotions when it comes to emotional voices. So they didn't have it. So there's no one to blame. But it's about forgiveness. It's about, understanding. Because when we understand both the collective trauma and the trauma is a gift. Because it can land in us. It's not us. It is, I have it stored in my memories. I have it stored in my lineage. But it's not coming from my present time, or my parents didn't have any tools to give me. So how could I know? And often this happens when we come in a life crisis, like this man who came in a divorce. And suddenly because he felt that he was the father for all the women he was together with. And then we looked at that. That wasn't really strange, because the responsibility was something he had learned by taking responsibility and being the one who was mediating between the parents, even if it were no fighting, but they didn't speak to each other. So the forgiveness, to forgive ourselves, and really with an open heart, have the understanding that, is it good enough to be 100%? Can we develop anything from that? No. 80%, 70% is okay. Then we can have this beautiful glass bowl of 30, 20% where we can play. We can educate us, we can develop our company, we can grow, we can expand. But if we don't have any air, if we have full the bucket, if we don't have any air, we cannot expand. And then the pressure of heavenly and anxiety and, being exhausted, it coming in your life.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that, because I working with people, I've heard the same thing, and they have there's just the process you did with this man. What you're also is happening is we're redefining this misnomer of forgiveness, that it's portrayed to many as weakness, as disloyal to a whole group of people, maybe who've had horrible things happen to them, all these different things, but it's not. Forgiveness really is about loving yourself so much that you want to use your energy for what you want to create, rather than spiraling downward in what did or did not happen, so that we're free to be whole and part of the living hoop of life, not just back there. But then as we heal, we're not only not weak, we are so strong, because we actually heal the past, but we're also opening up the possibilities and the healing for the future. And that's where you were talking about that a lot of your energy now is being spent on whether it's building the kiva or whatever, is to have the future generations, the grandchildren, the great-grandchildren, not only two-legged, but all of the species. Yes.
And that is also the beauty, when you're talking about bridging the future, it is really to knowing. I often say when I talk to corporate or other people that I understand that you might not understand my world, and that's fully fine, because it is, maybe it feels very far away from your reality. But we have different realities. And I really is curious of knowing your reality, but to meet each other in the dialogue, and not in the by showing respect, by be deeply listening, we can reach another level. And I always say that I think that there are so many prophecies, there are so many tribes all over the world, globally. But I think every tribe, every lineage is holding golden seeds from their ancestry that we can bring up to the light and to plant together. And instead of comparing each other, we can complement each other. because this is so needed. This voice is so needed. What can we see from the south to the north, from the east to the west? What are we seeing? What is the structure of the earth? What is the structure of the water? How is the sun? How is the light? How is the air? And how is the ancestry acknowledge them? How is it coming true? Because this is something that is also very present now. There coming a lot of prophecies, and I believe that unification is about to take out the golden seeds from every. I believe that everything, even if it's the deepest darks, have some golden sparks to take on board for the next step.
Yeah. I like the seed of unification. And you're right, there are so many prophecies that are unfolding now. And that in itself, as more and more people are interested in finding out who they are and also listening to Indigenous people who were often ignored in the past, but now finding that, gosh, things that we've known for some time, science now is saying that, not that we needed that for affirmation, because we already know that coming home and the truth of what you're talking about is so critical. But in the quiet, what I found with Indigenous people, it moves pretty quickly. There is pain, lots of it, and it's to today as well. And the well of joy is bigger. The well of joy from the ancestors and who they are themselves. Sacredness is even bigger. And so for those of you who might find it a little harder, then you just given so many lessons today about how we can come home. How we can come home to our own sacredness, how we can come home to our own gentleness, to who we really are, like the water moving and the seeds of light from the sun and the moon and all these things. And these are not just said for poetic purposes at all. Some people say that, because I do think you speak with quite a lot of beauty. And that's who we really are. That's who, when we look at it, he'll have different voices and different languages, but it's basically, it is beauty. We are part of beauty. We are part of nature, and we are meant to come together in ourselves and with everything. And I love the dual part of that, the individual collective. Now, I'm not going to let you go without, you brought up the kiva, and I know lots of people all over the world are listening. And so, can you tell us a little bit more about what is a kiva and what is it for you individually and collectively and all of that?
The kiva is a movement that started by Tigres Perez over 50 years ago. He had a vision. Our mother was calling for prayers globally. And the vision was also to call in the 5 continents to unify in one prayer. I come in contact with the kiva 3 years ago to Helmut and Heriberto. And it is a beautiful moment where we are for 4 days going to Mother Earth and praying for peace, for harmony, for common generation, for ancestry. How we see the kiva today is that kiva are more important than ever, because we had 3 accidents with the leg in the kiva now. So it's a pattern. And what showed that pattern? It shows that the fundamental ground is really needed for our mother. We need to be there. And the kiva is a movement, Roots of Earth, that following the Tigres Perez vision, and it's been in many constellations all over the world. And but I'm working with Heriberto, it is what really I've been in many different occasions, but the kiva is really a family where we care, a family where everyone is welcome, and it's really built for the common generation, where we bring in the children where we bring in the prayers, the song, the music, and the movement is even stronger today. So that's why we now, 2025, going to do a pilgrimage through 5 continents to 3 months to really lighten the fires in 5 continents, to bring it to one fire, and the goal is really to touch the human heart, the importance of just being with the prayer. Many people ask me, Helen, what do you do when you go in? Do you know what you're going to do when you go in? And I say to them, I just go in prayer and being with my mother. I'm honoring her. I'm being with her and acknowledging her and having that unique time with her in this ceremony space.
Yeah.
So it's a very beautiful movement. And so in the end of March, we will present, everything will be finished, the dates, the locations. That's the set time we have. So we're working fully now with all the things, because it to cover all the 5 continents.
Yes, that's a big vision and a movement, which basically means all of us are part of it. And so you can find out, of course, always where you are, where you grew up, but wherever you are now is learn about the people, because many indigenous people have the kiva. And some of them are small. It's literally underground. You go down a ladder and it's underground. Some of them are huge community kivas and some are a little bit smaller. But what you talk about is the power of being in that, being in Mother Earth, being in all the things, the prayers and things that happen. So it's not necessarily having a plan, as you said, but it's about just so being in the heart and present, being both earth and part of earth and being on earth. I mean, it's the whole thing. So those of you who want to learn more about the movement of the kivas, what would you suggest for them to do, Helen?
Oh, we have started a YouTube channel that's called Kiva Family, and we're now building the Kiva Family website. So if you follow me in Instagram or going in my website in the coming weeks, you will see I will put the links there, and you can follow. And you can follow the movement in the 5 continents of the Kiva, because this will be about telling the story of the continents, telling the story of the ancestry, of the spirit of the land. That it's so important that when we travel, that we acknowledge and building it on the spirit of Australia, for example, or Africa, that is the guidelines. And we are just bringing and facilitating and being there for the mother in that country. So
that's wonderful.
It's a beautiful movement. And I'm going to do a Kiva screening in Holland in April of the movie, Kiva movie. That was it was filmed a couple of years. But for me, I want to also to say to the world that even if I have a cold, even if I have a drum, I'm a human being. I'm a daughter, I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, and I'm a woman. So when I'm speaking, many times we can think that as Indigenous we have so many attributes, but it's the sacred items for us that is holding some energies, or sacred items that is holding our legacy. But behind that, even if it seems far away, there's a human being, and there are no difference in between you and me.
Yes, and that's what gives us hope, and that's why I'm just so appreciative of you coming and just sharing. I know we could spend weeks, if not months, talking back and forth, but that at least people know that you are part of this whole, and that some worry about, oh, I don't know how to approach Indigenous people. Is there a key? All that. So you can follow Helen to learn part of that. But do know that everywhere, Indigenous people have things that they open up and things that stay close. And so if you're invited, you're invited.
Yeah.
Don't let yourself, again, the fear hold you back. Oh, I might do something wrong. No, the point is for you to be curious. Know
Yeah.
that this something is pulling you and calling you, and to answer that call. And again, it's beautiful and wonderful. And it doesn't mean you're not without struggle sometimes, like a broken leg or whatever goes on with people, but it is the pathway to your divinity, to your own freedom, to the freedom of all beings in the hoop of life.
And
So Helen, go ahead.
I would
That's
say
good.
that this is about the existence of life, to allow yourself to exist in life.
Yeah, that's great. So we are about to, we only got a couple of minutes left.
Yes.
So I know on the written part, we'll have on the site where people can find you, but maybe you could just say with your Instagram or something, what is it under? Would they just send Helene Lindmark, or what would they look for?
They will look for Helene Lindmark. That's my
Okay,
Instagram.
Helene Lindmark.
Helene
Yes, that's
Lindmark.
right.
And the website is also Helene Lindmark.
Lindmark. Good.
So it's
That was
very
real
easy.
clear, easy to remember. Helen Lindmark is who you would want to find. And all of everything that you said, I feel energetically disappearing as a separateness. It is about oneness and unification within oneself, and then the extension, because we're part of everything. And nature that we're part of is so much a bridge, and it's calling us more than ever. So I thank all of you are here for hearing the call to come and listen to Helene Lindmark, Grandmother Helene Lindmark. And any last thing, Helen, that Grandmother Helen, that you'd like to say, maybe a dream or just other thing that you would just really want to say to people before we close?
I want to say that remember that you are unique, and be inspired, be curious, and be alive. Allow yourself to exist, and don't be afraid to ask for help and support, because there are no wrong questions. It's a weaving. We are weaving together. There's so many things in the world I don't know, that they come people and they teach me. Everyone I meet teach me something about life.
Thank you. We all heard your message. We all heard your dream. And I think most people really want to make that happen. And what's the thing about your dream? It serves all of us. So thank you so much, Grandmother Helen. And thank all
Thank
of you
you.
for listening. Yes, you're very welcome. And until next time.
Thank you,
Oh.
Anita.